This town is celebrating. Music fills the harbor. Lights glow against the water. But beneath the laughter, something is wrong. Before this festival ends, the truth will surface, and nothing will be the same. The Festival Fiasco is an original mystery audiobook from the Ravenwood Cove series, created exclusively by Mystery Manor Audiobooks. Find a comfortable place, put on your headphones, and let the mystery begin. The Festival Fiasco, a Ravenwood Cove mystery, Book 2, Chapter 1, Harbor Days Dawn. The smell of salt air and frying dough woke Emily Wilson before her alarm did. She groaned, pulling the pillow over her head. But Watson, her rescue beagle, had other ideas. His cold nose pressed against her cheek, followed by an insistent whine that meant breakfast now, please and thank you. All right. Emily sat up, her chestnut hair falling loose from its nighttime braid. Through her bedroom window, she could see Main Street already bustling with activity. Colorful banners stretched between lampposts, and vendor tents sprouted like mushrooms along the waterfront. Harbor Days Festival. The biggest weekend of Ravenwood Cove's summer calendar. And somehow, she'd agreed to work security detail. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Sheriff Tom Harris. Meeting at 7. Don't be late, bring coffee. Emily smiled. 6 months back in Ravenwood Cove, and she'd learned that Tom's gruffness was mostly theater. The Mill Ruins case had changed things between them. She wasn't just the detective who'd fled Boston anymore. She'd proven herself. After feeding Watson and throwing on jeans, a white button-down, and her weatherproof jacket, Emily grabbed her notebook and headed out. The morning was crisp. The kind of perfect June day that made tourists fork over premium prices for harbor view accommodations. She stopped at the Seafarer Diner, where Lucy Brown was already elbow-deep in pie dough. Emily, thank God. Lucy wiped flour on her apron. Today's print featured smiling lobsters wearing chef hats. I need an impartial judge. Blueberry basil or classic blueberry for the festival? Classic, Emily said without hesitation. People come to Maine for tradition, not fusion experiments. Lucy laughed, her gold hoop earrings catching the morning light. You sound like my mother. 2 coffees, I assume? Tom's already been through here once. Make it 3. Ben's meeting us. Ooh, Ben. Lucy's eyes twinkled. You two have been spending a lot of time together lately? We solved a murder together, Lucy. That's not exactly romantic. Says you. Lucy poured the coffees into a cardboard carrier. But fine, I'll mind my business, for now. Emily escaped before Lucy could elaborate, Watson trotting beside her as they walked toward the police station. The converted Victorian house looked quaint from the outside. White clapboard, green shutters, a porch swing that Tom refused to remove, despite it being unprofessional. Inside, though, it was all business. Tom was already at his desk, his salt and pepper mustache twitching as he reviewed festival permits. Deputy Carlos Ramirez sat across from him, his military straight posture making even casual clothes look like a uniform. Emily. Tom nodded approvingly at the coffee. You're a lifesaver. And Ben's late, Ramirez added, checking his smartwatch. As if summoned, the door opened and Ben Matthews stumbled in, his sandy blonde hair even more unruly than usual, carrying his leather satchel and looking slightly panicked. Sorry. The archives needed organizing, and I lost track of... Coffee, sit. Tom pointed at the empty chair. We've got problems. Emily's detective instincts sharpened. What kind of problems? Tom slid a folder across the desk. Inside were incident reports from the past week. Vandalized vendor equipment, threatening letters to the festival committee. Suspicious activity around the harbor master's office. Small stuff, mostly, Ramirez said. But the pattern's weird. It's targeted. Targeted at what? Ben asked, flipping through the reports. The festival itself. Tom leaned back in his chair, which creaked ominously. Or, more specifically, at Mayor Whitaker's vision for it. Emily frowned. Mayor Caroline Whitaker had been pushing for years to make Harbor Days a premier regional destination event, which mostly meant raising vendor fees, courting corporate sponsors, and pricing out local businesses. Let me guess, Emily said. The vandalism hit vendors who signed expensive contracts? Bingo. Tom tapped the folder. And here's the kicker. Someone stole the Harbor Days trophy last night. The Silver Lighthouse trophy? Ben sat up straighter. That thing's been around since the festival started. It's a town heirloom. Was? Tom corrected. Now it's gone. Glass case in the community center? Smashed. No witnesses, no cameras in that part of the building. Emily felt the familiar tingle of a case taking shape. You think it's connected to the other incidents? I think, Tom said carefully, that someone's trying to send a message. And with 10,000 tourists descending on us in... He checked his watch. 4 hours. We need to figure out what that message is before things get ugly. Watson suddenly perked up, his ears swiveling toward the door. A moment later, it burst open. Lucy stood there, still wearing her flour-dusted apron, her brown eyes wide. Emily, thank God you're here. Something's happened at the festival grounds. You need to come. Now. The festival grounds were a controlled chaos of last-minute preparations. Food vendors cranked up grills, craft booths adjusted their displays, and the Harbor Days Committee, led by an immaculate Mayor Whitaker in a powder blue suit, barked orders through megaphones. But Lucy dragged Emily past all of it, toward the main stage where the opening ceremony was scheduled for noon. I was dropping off pies for the baking competition, Lucy explained, breathless. And I heard people shouting. She didn't need to finish. Emily saw it immediately. The stage backdrop, a massive painted banner depicting Ravenwood Cove's harbor, had been vandalized. Someone had spray-painted across it in angry red letters. Tradition over greed. Remember who we were. But that wasn't the worst part. Hanging from the stage rafters, wrapped in evidence bags and labeled with neat handwritten tags, were 3 objects. A vintage fishing net, a hand-carved wooden buoy, and a leather-bound logbook. Emily's breath caught. Those weren't just random items. They were artifacts, the kind that belonged in a museum or in someone's private collection. Is that? Ben appeared at her shoulder, his glasses reflecting the morning sun. The Hartley collection, Emily finished. From the Maritime Museum. The Hartley family had been one of Ravenwood Cove's founding families. Their donation of historic fishing equipment had made the Maritime Museum possible, and now someone had stolen it and displayed it like some kind of protest art. Mayor Whitaker pushed through the crowd, her perfect bob not moving an inch despite the sea breeze. This is unacceptable. Utterly unacceptable. Detective Wilson, I want arrests. Today. We'll investigate. Emily started, but Whitaker wasn't finished. And I want this banner replaced immediately. We have reporters coming, TV crews. This," she gestured at the vandalized stage, "is not the image we're projecting." A voice cut through the tension. "Maybe that's exactly the image we should be projecting." The crowd parted, and Emily saw Douglas Hartley, the current patriarch of the Hartley family, standing with his arms crossed. He was in his mid-60s, weathered by decades on fishing boats, his eyes sharp beneath bushy gray eyebrows. "Those artifacts," he said, pointing at the stage, "represent real Ravenwood Cove, not this corporate nonsense." "Mr. Hartley," Whitaker's voice dripped ice, "if you have a complaint about the festival, there are proper channels." "Proper channels?" Hartley's laugh was bitter. "You mean the committee you stacked with your friends? The one that approved tripling vendor fees and kicking out half the local businesses?" Emily stepped between them. "Mr. Hartley, did you steal those artifacts from the museum?" "Steal? They're my family's legacy. I borrowed them to make a point." "That's still theft," Ramirez said, arriving with Tom. "Is it theft to take back what's yours?" Hartley's voice rose. "My grandfather built this festival. Now it's just another tourist trap." The crowd was getting restless. Camera phones appeared. Emily could see the headline already. "Historic Theft Mars Harbor Day's Opening." "Everyone calm down," Tom ordered. "Mr. Hartley, you're coming with us to answer questions. Ramirez, secure the scene. Ben, I need you to contact the museum and verify what's missing." Emily quote. But Emily wasn't listening. She was staring at the logbook hanging from the rafters. Something about it nagged at her, the way it was positioned, the deliberate staging. This wasn't just a protest. It was a clue, and whoever left it wanted her to find it. "Emily?" Tom's voice sharpened. "You with us?" "Yeah." She pulled her gaze away from the stage. "I'm with you. But Tom, this isn't over. Whatever's happening here, the theft is just the beginning." Tom's expression darkened. "That's what I'm afraid of." As they led Hartley away, Emily glanced back one more time. The morning sun glinted off the spray-painted words. "Remember who we were." Someone in Ravenwood Cove was about to remind them. And Emily had a sinking feeling that before Harbor Days ended, everyone would wish they'd listened. Chapter 2. Secrets in the Logbook. The interrogation room at the Ravenwood Cove Police Department smelled like stale coffee and regret. Emily sat across from Douglas Hartley, a voice recorder spinning between them while Tom observed from the corner. Hartley hadn't asked for a lawyer. In fact, he seemed almost eager to talk. "My grandfather, Samuel Hartley, founded Harbor Days in 1948, he said, his calloused hands folded on the table. "Back then, it was a one-day celebration. Locals only. We'd race lobster boats, have a clam bake, maybe some music. It was about community." Emily kept her voice neutral. "And now?" "Now?" Hartley's jaw tightened. "Now it's a 3-day tourist circus, corporate sponsors, imported seafood. Can you believe that? Imported seafood at a Maine fishing festival. My grandfather would roll in his grave." "So you decided to make a statement," Emily said, "by stealing museum artifacts and vandalizing the festival stage." "I didn't vandalize anything, and those artifacts belong to my family. The museum holds them in trust." "A trust you violated," Tom rumbled from the corner. "Breaking and entering, theft, destruction of property." "I have a key to the museum." Hartley interrupted. "I'm on the board, and I didn't break anything. I borrowed family heirlooms to remind people what this festival used to mean. Emily leaned forward. What about the spray paint? The banner? For the first time, Hartley hesitated. That wasn't me. Convenient, Tom muttered. It's the truth. Hartley met Emily's eyes. I hung the artifacts. I wanted people to see our history, remember that Fishin built this town. But the graffiti? That's someone else's work. Emily believed him. The vandalism and the artifacts didn't match. Different intentions, different styles. The items were carefully preserved, lovingly displayed. The graffiti was angry, aggressive. Who else would want to disrupt the festival? Emily asked. Hartley's bitter laugh filled the small room. Take your pick. Every local business the mayor's priced out. Every fishing family watching tourists gawk at their livelihoods like it's a theme park. Every person who remembers when Ravenwood Cove was more than a postcard. Names, Mr. Hartley. He rattled off a dozen. Pete Larkin, whose bait shop had lost its festival permit. Susan Chen, the potter whose booth fee tripled. Marcus Webb, captain of the Sea Dancer, who'd been complaining about tourist boats disrupting fishing lanes. Emily wrote them all down, knowing she had a long day ahead. One more question, she said. The logbook you hung on stage. Why that one specifically? Hartley's expression shifted, something almost like pride flickering in his eyes. That logbook documents every harbor days from 1948 to 1973. Every race winner, every volunteer, every dollar raised. It's our history, written in my grandfather's hand. I wanted people to read it, to remember. Can I see it? Be my guest. It's evidence now, isn't it? An hour later, Emily sat in the police station's evidence room with the logbook open in front of her. Ben had joined her, along with Dr. Sophia Patel, who'd stopped by on her way to set up the festival's first aid station. This is beautiful, Sophia said, running her fingers over the careful penmanship. Look at the detail. Names, times, even weather conditions. Ben was already photographing pages. This could be a museum exhibit on its own, the history of the festival in real time. Emily flipped through slowly, scanning entries. Samuel Hartley's handwriting was precise, almost artistic. Each year's festival got its own section. Participant lists, race results, vendor sales, even personal observations. 1951. Jonah Whitaker won the lobster boat race for the 3rd year running. Pride before the fall? We'll see. 1958. Attendance down this year. Nor'easter 2 weeks prior damaged the docks. Community rallied, rebuilt in time for the festival. This is what we do. 1967. Caroline Perry, now Whitaker, volunteered for the children's area. She's got ambition, that one. Wonder where it'll lead? Emily froze. Wait. Caroline Whitaker was involved in the festival back in the 60s? Makes sense, Ben said. Her family's been here for generations. The Whitakers and Hartleys go way back. Not always friendly, but connected. Sophia pointed to a later entry. 1972. Last Harbor Days under Hartley management. The festival's grown beyond our small-town roots. Time to let others lead. Just hope they remember why we started this. That's the year before Samuel died, Ben said quietly. And the year the festival committee took over official management. Emily's mind raced. A family grudge? Old rivalries. She flipped to the final entry, dated September 1973. Final note. I've hidden the truth where only a true Ravenwood son or daughter will find it. If this festival ever loses its soul, may someone with courage bring it back. Remember who we were. Remember who we are. The exact words from the spray-painted banner. That's not a coincidence, Emily said. Before anyone could respond, the door burst open. Tom stood there, his face grim. We've got another problem. Someone just broke into the mayor's office at Town Hall, trashed the place, and left a message. Town Hall sat in the heart of Main Street, a brick colonial that had served as Ravenwood Cove's administrative center since 1889. Emily arrived to find Ramirez already photographing the scene while Mayor Whitaker paced outside, her powder blue suit now creased with stress. "This is targeted harassment," she snapped into her phone. "I want state police involvement. Yes, I'll hold." Emily ignored her and stepped into the office. It was methodical destruction. File cabinets dumped, papers scattered, desk drawers yanked out. But nothing was damaged beyond repair. This was a search, not vandalism. Ramirez pointed to the wall behind the desk. More spray paint. "The truth is buried. Dig deeper." "Well, that's ominous," Ben said, appearing at Emily's shoulder with his camera. "Ben, what are you doing here?" "Covering the story. Small-town journalism never sleeps." He snapped photos of the graffiti. "Emily, this connects to the logbook, doesn't it? The truth is buried. Samuel Hartley said he hid something." Emily nodded slowly. "Someone's looking for it. But who? And why now?" Tom appeared in the doorway. "Douglas Hartley's still in custody. He's got an alibi for this, us." "Which means he has an accomplice," Ramirez said. "Or someone else read that logbook and decided to act." Emily studied the chaos. "The question is, what truth? What did Samuel Hartley hide that someone's desperate to find 50 years later?" "Whatever it is," Tom said grimly, "they're willing to commit multiple felonies to get it, and the festival starts in 2 hours. Emily's phone buzzed. A text from Lucy. "You need to see something. Diner. Now." It's about the Whitakers. The Seafarer Diner was packed with pre-festival crowds, but Lucy had saved a corner booth. She slid a manila envelope across the table to Emily. "My mother found this," Lucy said quietly. "She's been going through old photos for a memory wall display at the festival. Look." Inside were black and white photographs from the 1960s and 70s. Harbor Days celebrations, smiling crowds, fishing boats decorated with flags. And in several photos, Samuel Hartley and Mayor Whitaker's father, Jonah Whitaker, shaking hands, laughing together, standing side by side at ribbon cuttings. "They were friends," Emily said. "Were," Lucy emphasized. "My mother remembers when they had a falling out. She was a teenager, but she says it was huge. The whole town took sides." "What was the fight about?" Lucy shrugged. "She doesn't know details. But after 1972, they never spoke again. Samuel died the next year, and Jonah took over the festival committee." Ben appeared, sliding into the booth. "I did some digging in the Gazette archives. Found this." He laid out a photocopy of a 1972 article. The headline read, "Harbor Days expansion proposed. New management structure suggested." The festival was struggling financially, Ben explained. Samuel wanted to keep it small, local. Jonah Whitaker and others pushed for growth, corporate sponsorships, regional marketing. There was a big town meeting. Samuel lost the vote. He stepped down the next week. And died within a year, Emily said. Bitter, according to his logbook. Bitter enough to hide something damaging, Tom added, joining them uninvited. Evidence of corruption, embezzlement, something that would embarrass the Whitakers? Emily's coffee had gone cold, but she barely noticed. Pieces were clicking together. The old rivalry, the timing of the vandalism, the desperate search of the mayor's office. Someone thinks Samuel Hartley left proof of wrongdoing, she said. Something that could destroy the Whitaker family's reputation. Maybe even implicate the current mayor. Which means, Ramirez said, arriving with his own coffee, whoever's looking for it believes Caroline Whitaker inherited more than just political ambition from her father. The diner's bell chimed. Emily looked up to see Mayor Whitaker herself entering, her eyes scanning the crowd until they locked on Emily's booth. She walked over, her heels clicking against linoleum. "Detective Wilson, we need to talk. Privately." Emily glanced at Tom, who nodded. They moved to a quieter corner while Watson settled at Emily's feet, ever vigilant. "I know what you're thinking," Whitaker said without preamble. "My father and Samuel Hartley hated each other by the end. Everyone knows that story." "What they don't know," Emily said carefully, "is why." Whitaker's perfect composure cracked slightly. "My father was a businessman. He saw potential in Harbor Days that Samuel couldn't or wouldn't see. They disagreed about the direction. It happens. Your father took over the festival after Samuel died, made it profitable. Some would say he cashed in on Samuel's legacy. Some would be wrong." Whitaker's eyes flashed. "My father saved this festival. Without his vision, it would have died decades ago." "Then why is someone trying to dig up the past? What truth did Samuel Hartley hide?" "I don't know." For the first time, Whitaker sounded uncertain. "But if there's something damaging to my family, I need you to find it first, before it becomes public, before this festival and my family's reputation is destroyed." Emily studied the mayor's face, searching for deception. But all she saw was fear. "I'll find the truth," Emily said, "wherever it leads." As Whitaker left, Tom leaned in. "You believe her?" "I believe she's scared. But of what? The truth coming out? Or something else?" Ben was still flipping through old photographs. Suddenly, he froze. "Emily, look at this." He held up a photo from 1972. Samuel Hartley standing on the harbor dock, wearing a heavy work jacket, pointing at something off camera. In the background, barely visible, was a small building with a painted sign. Emily squinted. The old harbor master's office, which has been locked and unused since they built the new one in 1985, Ben said. Tom caught on immediately. "The truth is buried. Dig deeper." "He didn't mean literally," Emily breathed. "He meant the harbor master's office. That's where he hid whatever evidence he had." Ramirez was already on his feet. "We need to get there before whoever's been vandalizing the festival does." But as they rushed toward the door, Emily's phone rang. The caller ID showed the police station's main line. "Wilson," she answered. The dispatcher's voice was tense. "Detective, we've got a situation at the old harbor master's office. Someone's broken in, and there's smoke." Emily's blood ran cold. "Is it a fire?" "No, it's a smoke bomb," But, Detective, there are people trapped inside. You need to get there now. Chapter 3. Smoke and Mirrors. The old harbor master's office sat at the end of the western dock, a weathered, clapboard building that hadn't seen official use in 4 decades. By the time Emily, Tom, and Ramirez arrived, smoke poured from its broken windows, while a small crowd gathered at a safe distance. The volunteer fire department was already there, Captain Ruth Morrison barking orders to her crew. She spotted Tom and jogged over, her face streaked with soot. "We've got 2 people inside," she said. "They're not injured, but the smoke's thick. We're venting it now." "Who's inside?" Emily demanded. "Anna Whitaker and Pete Larkin." Emily's mind raced. Anna Whitaker, the mayor's daughter, who'd been cleared of suspicion in the mill ruins case. And Pete Larkin, the bait shop owner who'd lost his festival permit, one of the names Douglas Hartley had mentioned. What were they doing in there together? Ramirez asked. "That," Morrison said grimly, "is a damn good question." Minutes later, 2 firefighters emerged, supporting Anna and Pete. Both were coughing, eyes red, but mobile. Sophia appeared from the crowd, medical bag already open, and began checking their vitals. Emily waited until they could breathe before stepping forward. "Start talking. Both of you." Pete Larkin, a wiry man in his 50s with hands permanently stained from bait handling, spoke first. "I got a text. Anonymous. Said if I wanted proof the mayor's family stole from the festival budget, I should check the old harbor master's office." "I got the same text," Anna said hoarsely. She was 26, with her mother's bone structure but none of her polished veneer. "Except mine said it was proof my grandfather embezzled from the original festival fund." Tom's eyebrows rose. "You're investigating your own family?" Anna's laugh was bitter. "You think I don't know my mother's ruthless? I just wanted to know if it ran in the family." "So you both showed up," Emily said. "And then what?" "The door was unlocked," Pete said. "We went inside, started looking through old filing cabinets. Then we heard a hissing sound. Smoke bomb went off," Anna finished. "Someone locked the door from outside. We couldn't get out until the firefighters broke it down." "You were set up," Ramirez said flatly. "Or someone wanted you out of the way," Emily added, "while they searched somewhere else." Her phone buzzed. A text from Ben. "Found something at the Gazette archives. You need to see this. It's about the festival's founding funds." Emily showed Tom, who nodded. "Go. I'll handle the scene here. And Emily, be careful. Someone's playing a very dangerous game." The Ravenwood Gazette occupied a 2-story brick building on Main Street. Its basement archives a maze of filing cabinets and dusty newspaper stacks. Ben had set up a makeshift research station surrounded by decades-old financial records. "How did you get these?" Emily asked. "Public records request. Took 3 weeks, but I finally got the original Harbor Days financial statements." Ben spread papers across the desk. "Look at 1972, the year Samuel and Jonah had their falling out." Emily scanned the numbers. The festival had been struggling, as Ben mentioned earlier. But one entry jumped out. A donation of $50,000 from Whitaker Enterprises. "That's a fortune in 1972 dollars, Emily said. "Exactly. It saved the festival. But here's where it gets interesting." Ben pulled out another document. Samuel Hartley filed a formal complaint with the town council, alleging that the donation came with strings, specifically that Jonah Whittaker demanded a permanent seat on the festival committee and veto power over major decisions. He bought control of the festival. Samuel thought so. The council dismissed his complaint, said accepting donations didn't equal corruption, but Samuel wouldn't let it go. He kept investigating. And found something, Emily guessed. Ben nodded. Look at this. A letter Samuel wrote to the town attorney dated 3 weeks before he died. Emily read the faded typewriter text. Dear Mr. Patterson, I'm writing to formally document my concerns regarding the Harbor Days Festival's financial management. I have evidence that the 1972 donation from Whittaker Enterprises was actually a loan, not a gift. Furthermore, I believe subsequent festival profits were used to repay this loan with interest, essentially using public event funds for private profit. I have documented proof, contracts, ledgers, and personal correspondence. I've secured these documents in a safe location. If anything should happen to me, my family will know where to find them. I hope this matter can be resolved quietly, for the good of our community. But I will not allow Ravenwood Cove's traditions to be bought and sold like commodities. Respectfully, Samuel Hartley. Did the attorney respond? Emily asked. Samuel died 2 weeks after sending this. Heart attack, officially. But the town attorney, Gerald Patterson, left town within a month. No explanation. No forwarding address? Emily felt pieces sliding into place. If Samuel's evidence proved Jonah Whittaker profited illegally from the festival, it would destroy the Whittaker family's reputation. Everything Caroline has built, her political career, her vision for Ravenwood Cove, it's all built on her father's legacy. And if that legacy is fraud... Ben trailed off. Someone's looking for Samuel's evidence to use it, either to blackmail the mayor or expose her publicly. Emily thought of the smoke bomb, the vandalism, the increasingly desperate acts. But who? Who benefits from taking down Caroline Whittaker? Before Ben could answer, the Gazette's front door crashed open. Deputy Ramirez rushed in, breathing hard. Emily, we've got a problem. The Harbor Days trophy, the one that was stolen, someone just returned it. Left it in the middle of the festival stage during setup. Returned it? That didn't make sense. Why steal it, only to give it back? Because, Ramirez said grimly, they engraved a message on the base, and you're not going to like it. The festival grounds buzzed with activity. Vendors finishing their booths, musicians sound checking, tourists already flooding in for the noon opening ceremony. But a crowd had gathered around the main stage, where the silver lighthouse trophy sat gleaming in the June sun. Tom stood guard over it, his face carved from stone. Emily pushed through the crowd and knelt to read the fresh engraving. To the winner goes the spoils, but the truth cannot be bought. Samuel Hartley, guardian of tradition. This is a declaration of war, Tom muttered. Mayor Whittaker appeared, her composure finely shattered. This is absurd. My father did nothing wrong. These accusations are apparently documented, Emily said quietly. We found Samuel Hartley's letter. He believed your father used festival funds for personal profit. Whittaker's face went pale. That's not possible. My father was investigated. The council cleared him. Did they? Or did they sweep it under the rug to avoid scandal? Before Whitaker could respond, a commotion erupted near the harbor. Someone was shouting, and the crowd surged toward the docks. Emily ran, Watson at her heels. What she saw stopped her cold. A fishing boat, the Sea Dancer, Marcus Webb's vessel, was sinking at its mooring. Water poured through holes deliberately drilled in the hull. Marcus stood on the dock, his weathered face twisted with rage, shouting at a figure who was already walking away. Douglas Hartley. "You did this," Marcus roared. "You and your self-righteous crusade." "I did no such thing," Hartley shot back. "I've been in your custody for hours." Tom arrived, positioning himself between the two men. Everyone calmed down. "Hartley, you're still under police escort. There's no way you did this." "Then who?" Marcus demanded. "Who's destroying everything?" Emily's mind spun. The vandalism, the theft, the smoke bomb, now sabotage. It was escalating. But to what end? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You're asking the wrong questions, Detective. The truth isn't about money. It's about justice. And justice is coming. Check the lighthouse before sunset. Come alone." Emily showed Tom, who shook his head firmly. "Absolutely not. It's a trap." "Maybe, but it's also our only lead." Emily looked at the chaos around them, the sinking boat, the angry fishermen, the frightened tourists. "This festival is being torn apart. We need answers." "Then we go together," Tom said. "No heroics, Emily. We've seen how this ends." But as Emily nodded agreement, another thought struck her. If someone wanted her at the lighthouse at sunset, what were they planning to do while she was there? And more importantly, who else would pay the price? Chapter 4. The Lighthouse Keeper's Warning. The Ravenwood Cove Lighthouse stood on a rocky promontory at the harbor's edge, its white tower gleaming against the afternoon sky. Built in 1898, it had been automated since 1975 and saw visitors only during special events. Today, with the festival in full swing, it should have been locked and empty. Emily arrived 15 minutes before sunset, Tom and Ramirez flanking her despite her objections. They'd left Watson with Lucy for safety, and to Emily's secret relief. Whatever was happening, she didn't want her dog in danger. "Place gives me the creeps," Ramirez muttered, hand resting on his service weapon. Tom tested the lighthouse door, unlocked. "Well, that's concerning." They entered cautiously. The interior was dusty but intact, spiral stairs winding upward into dimness, the smell of salt and old metal thick in the air. On the ground floor, someone had set up a makeshift display. Photographs, dozens of them, carefully arranged on a folding table. Emily approached slowly, her detective's eye cataloging every detail. The photos were old, dating from the 1960s and 70s. Harbor Day celebrations, fishing boats, family gatherings. But these weren't the innocent snapshots Lucy's mother had shared. These showed something else. Jonah Whitaker accepting an envelope from a man Emily didn't recognize. Jonah and another man, the town attorney, Gerald Patterson, examining documents in what looked like a late-night meeting. Jonah shaking hands with developers, their business cards visible. Coastal Enterprises, Inc. And in the center of it all, a photograph of Jonah Whitaker and Samuel Hartley standing on this very lighthouse's observation deck. Jonah's face twisted in anger, Samuel's calm but resolute. "This is surveillance," Tom said quietly. Someone was documenting everything. Samuel Hartley, Emily guessed. He knew what Jonah was planning. He gathered evidence. A voice echoed from the stairwell above. Not just evidence, insurance. Emily spun, hand moving to her weapon. Slowly, a figure descended into the dim light. Martha Higgins, the head librarian. In her 70s, petite and normally gentle. Martha looked utterly transformed. Her green eyes blazed with purpose, and she carried a worn leather satchel that Emily recognized from crime scene photos. Samuel Hartley's missing evidence bag. Martha? Emily's mind reeled. You're the one who's been trying to save this town? Yes. Martha set the satchel down gently, though perhaps my methods have been dramatic. Tom moved forward. You're under arrest for what? Vandalism? Theft? I'll confess to all of it. Martha's voice was steady. But first, you need to understand why. We know about the festival fraud, Emily said. Jonah Whittaker's loan, the embezzlement. That's barely the beginning. Martha gestured at the photographs. Jonah Whittaker didn't just steal from the festival. He used it as a front for land development schemes. He bought properties around the harbor for pennies. Properties owned by families who couldn't afford rising taxes. Then he sold them to developers for massive profits. She pulled documents from the satchel. These are the original contracts. Coastal Enterprises was a shell company Jonah created with Patterson, the town attorney. They bought 12 waterfront properties between 1970 and 1975. Paid an average of $5,000 per lot. Sold them for $50,000 each within 5 years. Emily scanned the papers. That's over $500,000 in profit, Martha finished. In 1970s, money. Samuel figured it out. He was documenting everything, planning to go to the state attorney general. But then he died. Heart attack, Ramirez said. The medical report was clear. Martha's laugh was bitter. Samuel Hartley was 58 years old, in perfect health. He ran fishing boats until he was 70. But 2 weeks after threatening Jonah Whittaker with exposure, he drops dead of sudden cardiac arrest. You think he was murdered? Emily said slowly. I think convenient deaths happen around inconvenient truths. Martha's eyes met Emily's. Gerald Patterson, the town attorney who helped Jonah, left town suddenly. Car accident 6 months later. The state investigator who started looking into Harbor Day's finances. Retired early, moved to Florida. There's a pattern, Detective Wilson. One Samuel Hartley saw clearly. Tom was reading through the documents, his face growing darker. If this is true, it would implicate not just Jonah Whittaker, but half the town council from that era. And explain why Samuel's evidence disappeared, Emily added. Why the investigation was dropped. But why come forward now? Ramirez asked Martha. Why not decades ago? Martha sank onto the bottom step, suddenly looking every one of her 74 years. Because I was in love with Samuel Hartley. And when he died, I was afraid. Jonah Whittaker had power, connections. I was just a library assistant. Who would believe me? Emily remembered the Mill Ruins case, where Martha had been involved in covering up another old secret. The librarian seemed drawn to protecting Ravenwood Cove's history, or perhaps haunted by it. So I kept Samuel's evidence hidden. Martha continued, waited, watched. When Caroline Whittaker became mayor, I thought maybe the past would stay buried. But then she started expanding the festival, using her father's legacy to justify squeezing out local businesses. The same pattern, a generation later. So you decided to force the truth out, Emily said. The vandalism, the theft, the smoke bomb. The smoke bomb was meant to scare, not harm. I knew the fire department would arrive quickly. Martha's expression hardened. And I didn't sink Marcus Webb's boat. That wasn't me. Emily's instincts prickled. Then who did? Before Martha could answer, Ramirez's radio crackled to life. All units, we have an emergency at the festival grounds. Structural collapse, multiple injuries, requesting all available personnel. Tom was already moving. Emily, stay with Martha. Get her full statement. I'll handle the scene. But Emily grabbed his arm. Tom, this feels wrong. What if this is another diversion? What if someone's trying to... Her phone buzzed. Another anonymous text. You're close, Detective. But the real target isn't the festival. It's the Whitakers themselves. Check the mayor's house, now. Emily showed Tom, whose face went grim. Ramirez, you're with me. Emily, get Martha to the station, then meet us at Whitaker's residence. He paused at the door. And Emily, be careful. If Martha's right about convenient deaths, whoever's protecting the Whitaker's secret might not stop at property damage. As they left, Emily turned back to Martha. The librarian was trembling, the adrenaline of confession wearing off. There's more, isn't there? Emily asked gently. Something you're not telling me. Martha nodded slowly. The last document in Samuel's collection, a letter written the night before he died. It names his killer. Emily's breath caught. Who? I don't know. Samuel used a code. He was paranoid by the end. I've spent 50 years trying to crack it. Martha pulled a worn envelope from the satchel. But maybe you can succeed where I failed. Emily took the envelope, her hand steady despite her racing heart. Whatever was about to happen, she could feel the case accelerating toward a conclusion. The question was whether she could solve it before someone else got hurt. Or worse. Chapter 5. The Mayor's Secret. Caroline Whitaker's house sat on the hill overlooking Ravenwood Cove, a modern glass and stone structure that seemed to declare its owner's status, with every clean line and expensive fixture. Emily arrived with Martha in custody. Technically a voluntary witness, but Emily wasn't taking chances, to find Tom and Ramirez already on scene. The front door stood open. Mrs. Whitaker's car is in the garage, Ramirez reported. Lights are on, but no one's answering. Stay here with Martha, Emily told Tom. I'll clear the house. Not alone, you won't. Tom drew his weapon and followed. The interior was ransacked. Not the chaotic mess of the earlier office break-in, but systematic destruction. Every drawer opened, every cabinet searched, papers scattered across marble floors. Caroline, Emily called. It's Detective Wilson. We're coming in. Silence, then faintly from upstairs. Help, please. Emily took the stairs 2 at a time, Tom behind her. The master bedroom door was closed but unlocked. She pushed it open slowly. Mayor Whitaker sat on her bed, perfectly composed in her powder blue suit, except for the red-rimmed eyes and the trembling hands clutching a photograph. They were here, she said quietly, looking for something. Are you hurt? No, I came home from the festival to change before the evening ceremony. Found this. She gestured at the destruction. I was upstairs when I heard someone breaking in downstairs. I hid in the closet like a coward. That's not cowardice, Emily said firmly. That's survival. Did you see who it was? Whitaker shook her head. But they found what they were looking for. Or rather, what I've been hiding for 30 years. She held up the photograph she'd been clutching. Emily took it carefully. The image showed a much younger Caroline Whitaker, maybe 18, standing next to her father, Jonah, at what looked like a construction site. But that wasn't what made Emily's breath catch. In the background, clearly visible, was a sign. Ocean View Condominiums, coming 1976. And standing beside it, shaking Jonah's hand, was a man in a business suit. Emily squinted at the faded image. Who is that? Thomas Blackwood, Whitaker said quietly. Morgan Blackwood's father. The name hit Emily like a physical blow. Morgan Blackwood, the wealthy developer who'd been arrested in the mill ruins case for insurance fraud. His family's connection to Ravenwood Cove ran deep, and Emily had thought that case was closed. Apparently not. The Blackwoods and Whitakers were partners. Whitaker continued. My father provided the political connections, the zoning approvals. Thomas Blackwood provided the development capital. Together, they turned Ravenwood Cove from a fishing village into a tourist destination. And made millions in the process, Emily said. Billions over the decades. Whitaker's voice was hollow. I inherited the family business when my father died. Continued the partnerships, expanded them. Everything I've built, my political career, my vision for this town, it all traces back to those original deals. Tom appeared in the doorway. Emily, we've got a situation downstairs. They descended to find Anna Whitaker standing in the destroyed living room, her face a mask of fury. Behind her, Douglas Hartley stood with his arms crossed, free of his police escort. I let him out, Anna said before anyone could ask. He deserves to hear this. Anna, don't. Her mother started. No more secrets. Anna's voice shook. Mr. Hartley, your grandfather was right. My family built their fortune by stealing from this town. From your family. From everyone. Whitaker descended the stairs, her composure cracking. Anna, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Grandfather Jonah bought properties cheap, destroyed lives, and you've been covering for him ever since. Anna turned to Emily. I've been researching. I know about the shell companies, the bribes to town officials, all of it. I was trying to figure out how to expose it without destroying my mother. But someone beat you to it, Emily said. And now they have the evidence. Whitaker looked at Martha, who'd been brought inside by Ramirez. I assume that's your doing. Martha lifted her chin. Samuel Hartley trusted me with the truth. I kept it hidden for 50 years out of fear. But I'm not afraid anymore. You should be. The voice came from the doorway, cold and familiar. Morgan Blackwood stepped into the house, flanked by two men Emily didn't recognize. Despite his arrest months earlier, he looked immaculate in an expensive suit, his gray eyes calculating. Blackwood. Tom's hand moved to his weapon. You're supposed to be awaiting trial. Released on bail yesterday. My lawyers are very good. Blackwood's smile was predatory. And when I heard about the festival chaos, I knew someone was finally revealing our family secrets. I couldn't miss that. You're behind this, Emily said. The ransacking, the search. I'm looking for the same thing everyone else wants. Samuel Hartley's evidence. Blackwood's eyes fixed on Martha. "Which I believe you've been hiding, Mrs. Higgins." Martha's defiance wavered. "I won't help you profit from Samuel's death." Samuel's death was unfortunate but necessary. Just like Gerald Patterson's accident. Just like anyone who threatens the Whitaker-Blackwood partnership. The room went silent. Emily felt pieces clicking into place. The pattern Martha had identified, the convenient deaths, the cover-ups. "You're confessing to murder," Tom said quietly. "I'm confessing to nothing. I'm simply stating facts." Blackwood pulled a gun from his jacket, casual, as if drawing a phone. "And the fact is, that evidence belongs to my family. Samuel Hartley stole our private business documents. We're simply reclaiming them." Ramirez moved, but Blackwood's men were faster, their own weapons appearing. "Everyone stay calm," Emily said, her mind racing. "Blackwood, you can't shoot your way out of this. There are witnesses. Police everywhere." "Police are busy with the festival emergency, which I should mention I arranged. A little structural sabotage, nothing fatal, but sufficiently distracting." Blackwood's gun pointed at Martha. "Now, where is Samuel Hartley's evidence?" "Safe," Martha said defiantly. "Somewhere you'll never find it." "Then I suppose we'll start with you and work our way through everyone until someone talks." Emily's hand inched toward her weapon, but Tom caught her eye, shaking his head fractionally. They were outgunned. "There's another option," Anna said suddenly. "The evidence doesn't matter." Everyone turned to her. She pulled out her phone, her hands remarkably steady. "I've been recording this conversation. Everything you just said about murders, about the partnership, about sabotage." She held up the phone. "And I've been live streaming it to the Ravenwood Gazette's social media." Ben's voice crackled through the phone speaker. "Got it all, Anna. Police are en route. So is every news outlet in New England." Blackwood's expression flickered, the first sign of uncertainty. "You're bluffing?" "She's not," Emily said, pulling her own phone. "Ben, you there?" "Right here, with about 10,000 people watching the stream, maybe more." Blackwood's gun wavered. Outside, sirens approached. Not just local police. State police, Emily realized. Someone had called in serious backup. "It's over, Blackwood," Tom said. "Drop the weapon." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Blackwood smiled, a cold, resigned expression that sent chills down Emily's spine. "You think this ends anything? The Whitaker-Blackwood partnership built this town. We are Ravenwood Cove. Destroying us destroys everything." "No," Douglas Hartley said quietly. "You are what almost destroyed Ravenwood Cove. The real town, the community my grandfather fought for, that's still here. And we're going to rebuild it." The sirens were deafening now. Blackwood's men exchanged glances, then slowly lowered their weapons. Smart. They knew when they'd lost. But Blackwood kept his gun trained on Martha. "If I'm going down, I'm taking her with me. She's the one who started this." Watson appeared from nowhere, having somehow escaped Lucy's diner, and launched himself at Blackwood's legs with a fierce beagle howl. The gun discharged into the ceiling as Blackwood stumbled. Tom and Ramirez were on him in seconds, weapons drawn, shouting commands. The room erupted into controlled chaos. State police pouring in, Blackwood and his men being cuffed, Watson receiving enthusiastic praise from everyone. Except the criminals. Emily knelt beside Martha, who was trembling violently now that the adrenaline was fading. "You okay?" "I kept his secrets for 50 years," Martha whispered. And in 5 minutes, Anna Whitaker did what I couldn't. Emily looked at Anna, who was sitting beside her mother on the couch. Whitaker had tears streaming down her face, but she was holding her daughter's hand. "Sometimes," Emily said gently, "the next generation has to fix what the previous one broke. That's not failure, that's hope." Later, after the arrests, after the statements, after the festival was officially suspended pending investigation, Emily sat on the lighthouse steps, watching the sun set over Ravenwood Cove. Ben joined her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "Thought you might need this." "You're a mind reader." Emily accepted gratefully. "How bad is the fallout?" "Depends on your perspective. Mayor Whitaker resigned an hour ago. The town council's calling an emergency election. Douglas Hartley is being hailed as a hero despite the museum theft." "And Anna?" "Already announced she's running for mayor. Platform, transparency, accountability, and returning Harbor Days to its community roots." Ben smiled. "She's going to win." Emily thought about that, about how sometimes the biggest mysteries weren't about who committed a crime, but about how to fix the damage that crime left behind. "What about Samuel Hartley's letter?" Ben asked. "The one naming his killer?" Emily pulled the envelope from her pocket. She'd spent hours trying to crack the code, finally realizing it wasn't a complex cipher. It was a simple substitution, the kind a paranoid man might create quickly. She decoded it during the drive from Whitaker's house. "If you're reading this, I'm dead. Jonah Whitaker and Thomas Blackwood will deny everything. But they know the truth. They stole from our town, corrupted our traditions, and when I threatened to expose them, Jonah poisoned me. The proof is in my autopsy. My doctor will find traces of digitalis if he looks. But he won't look. They own him too. To my granddaughter, if she ever reads this, don't let them win. Fight for Ravenwood Cove. Remember who we were." "He did have a granddaughter," Ben said softly. "She moved away decades ago. Lives in Portland now. Douglas Hartley mentioned her. They haven't spoken in years. Family feud over inheritance." Emily folded the letter carefully. "I'm going to find her. She deserves to know her grandfather died a hero, not a broken old man." They sat in comfortable silence, watching fishing boats return to harbor. In the distance, volunteers were already starting to clean up the festival grounds. Life went on, even after revelations. "So," Ben said eventually, "what's next for Detective Wilson?" Emily thought about Sheriff Tom's comment that morning about doubts and therapy. The Mill Ruins case had changed her, and this one had too. She was learning that Ravenwood Cove's mysteries weren't just about solving crimes. They were about healing wounds, some decades old. "Next?" She smiled. "I guess we'll find out." But as they walked back toward town, Emily felt the weight of Samuel Hartley's letter in her pocket. One mystery solved. But how many more were waiting? In a town as old as Ravenwood Cove, secrets had a way of accumulating. And Emily was beginning to suspect her work here was far from over. Chapter 6. Foundations and Fractures. The Harbor Days festival grounds looked like a disaster zone. Vendor tents sagged, abandoned food stations attracted seagulls, and the damaged stage leaned at a precarious angle where Morgan Blackwood's sabotage had weakened support beams. Emily stood in the middle of it all, coffee in hand, watching the cleanup crew work. It was Monday morning, 2 days after the arrests. The town was still reeling. "Detective Wilson?" Emily turned to find Susan Chen, the potter who'd complained about tripled booth fees. She looked exhausted, her hands still clay-stained from trying to salvage merchandise. "Susan, I'm sorry about your booth. Don't apologize, none of this is your fault." Susan pulled out an envelope. "Actually, I wanted to give you this. We took up a collection. All the vendors who got squeezed out by the mayor's fee increases. It's for Douglas Hartley's legal defense." Emily looked at the envelope, bulging with cash and checks. "Susan, I can't accept." "Then give it to his lawyer. He's been charged with theft and vandalism, but he was fighting for us. The least we can do is help him fight back." After Susan left, Emily sat on the damaged stage, thinking. The law was clear. Hartley had broken it. But in doing so, he'd exposed a corruption that had infected Ravenwood Cove for 50 years. Where was the justice in that? Her phone rang. "Sheriff Tom." "Emily, you need to get to the station. We've got a visitor." "Who?" "Samuel Hartley's granddaughter. And she's brought a lawyer." Rebecca Hartley Morrison was 62 years old, a successful architect in Portland, with her grandfather's sharp eyes and stubborn chin. She sat in the police station's conference room, her attorney beside her, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "I haven't been to Ravenwood Cove in 40 years, she said without preamble. "When my grandfather died, I was 22. I thought he'd had a heart attack. No one suggested otherwise." Emily slid Samuel Hartley's decoded letter across the table. "Your Uncle Douglas didn't know about this. Your grandfather gave it to Martha Higgins for safekeeping." Rebecca read it, her face going pale. "They murdered him." "We can't prove that," Tom said gently. "The autopsy from 1973 showed natural causes. Exhumation would be difficult." "But we can prove the rest," Emily added. "The land fraud, the embezzlement, the conspiracy. Morgan Blackwood confessed on camera to ordering murders. The state attorney general is building a RICO case." Rebecca's hands shook. "My grandfather died trying to save this town, and I abandoned it. I left because I thought he was just a bitter old man who couldn't let go of the past." "You were 22, her attorney said quietly. "You had your own life." "I should have listened." Rebecca looked at Emily. "Douglas said you were the detective who solved this, that you wouldn't let it go." "Your grandfather didn't let it go either. That kind of stubbornness runs in families, apparently." Rebecca laughed, a broken sound. "My mother used to say that. She never forgave this town for what happened to her father. She died thinking everyone had forgotten him." "They didn't forget," Emily said. "They were scared. People like the Whitakers and Blackwoods have power. They make forgetting seem safer than remembering." "But you remembered?" "Actually," Emily admitted, "I was just trying to stop festival vandalism. Your grandfather's story found me." They talked for another hour. Rebecca shared memories. Samuel teaching her to sail, showing her the old fishing grounds, explaining how every part of Ravenwood Cove had a story. He'd loved this town, even when it broke his heart. Before leaving, Rebecca pulled out a document. "My grandfather's will left his entire estate to my mother, and when she died, to me, including his share of the original Harbor Days Festival Fund, which, according to these documents you found, was never properly distributed. Emily's eyes widened. How much? In 1973 dollars? About $30,000? In today's market with compound interest? Rebecca smiled. Enough to fund a scholarship program for local students. Or maybe rebuild the Maritime Museum. Something that would make Grandpa Samuel proud. And stick it to the Whitakers, Tom added with a rare grin. That too, Rebecca agreed. After she left, Emily sat in the quiet conference room, thinking about legacies. Samuel Hartley had died believing he'd failed. But 50 years later, his granddaughter was using his final gift to rebuild what had been broken. Maybe that was justice after all. That afternoon, Emily found Ben at the Gazette, surrounded by interview notes and follow-up stories. The case had made regional news. Small-town corruption exposed by festival theft was the Portland Tribune's headline. "You're famous," Ben said, spinning his laptop to show Emily. "Look, the Boston Globe wants an interview." Hard pass. Emily sank into a chair. "I've had enough publicity for a lifetime." Fair. Ben closed the laptop. "So, what happens now? To the town, I mean." "Emergency election in 3 weeks. Anna Whitaker's running unopposed so far, but there's talk of Douglas Hartley entering the race." "That would be interesting. The rebel versus the reformer." Ben pulled out his notebook. "I'm writing a feature on Samuel Hartley for the anniversary edition. I was wondering, could I see his letter? The original?" Emily hesitated. "It's evidence in an active investigation." "I know. But Emily, this is history. The town needs to know the truth, not just the crimes, but the courage it took to stand against them." He was right. Emily had learned that secrets, even well-intentioned ones, had a way of festering. Sunlight was the best disinfectant. "I'll see what I can do." Ben's smile was warm. "You know, when you first came back to Ravenwood Cove, everyone said you'd leave again. That you couldn't handle small-town life after Boston. And now? Now I think Ravenwood Cove can't handle you leaving." Emily felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Ben, I'm just saying. You've solved 2 major cases in 6 months. You've taken down corrupt politicians, exposed cover-ups, and become the town's unofficial moral compass. That's impressive. It's exhausting is what it is." But Emily smiled. "Though, I have to admit, I'm sleeping better than I did in Boston." "Even with all the murders?" "Especially with all the murders. At least here I know why I'm doing it. These are my people. My town." Ben's expression softened. "Samuel Hartley would have liked you." "I think I would have liked him too." They sat in comfortable silence, the afternoon sun streaming through the Gazette's dusty windows. Outside, Ravenwood Cove was recovering. Slowly, painfully, but moving forward. Emily's phone buzzed. A text from Lucy. "Diner. Now. Emergency pie situation." Emily laughed. "Duty calls." "The burdens of small-town heroism," Ben said solemnly. As Emily left, she felt something shift inside her. The ghosts of her Boston past, the cases that went wrong, the partner who died, the burnout that drove her home, they were still there. But they were quieter now, overshadowed by the work she was doing here. Maybe that was healing, not forgetting, but moving forward. Chapter 7. Reckoning and Renewal. The town council meeting was standing room only. Emily stood at the back of the room with Tom and Ramirez, watching as Ravenwood Cove decided its future. On the agenda, accepting Mayor Whitaker's resignation, setting the emergency election date, and, most controversially, voting on whether to disband the current Harbor Days Committee and start fresh. Anna Whitaker stood at the podium, looking nothing like her polished mother. She wore jeans and a Ravenwood College sweatshirt, her hair in a simple ponytail, and spoke with a passion that electrified the room. My grandfather, Jonah Whitaker, stole from this town. My mother, Caroline, perpetuated that theft through her policies. I can't change the past, but I can commit to a different future. If elected mayor, my first act will be to establish an independent audit of every town contract, every land deal, every festival expenditure from the past 50 years. Transparency, accountability, and community input, those will be my priorities. The room erupted in applause, but not everyone was convinced. Douglas Hartley stood, his weathered face stern. Words are easy, Miss Whitaker. Your family's had 50 years to do the right thing. Why should we trust you now? You shouldn't, Anna said simply, not based on my name. Judge me by my actions. I'm donating my family's entire festival fund share back to the town, about $200,000. It'll be used to subsidize vendor fees, fund community programs, and restore the Maritime Museum. That's not charity. That's restitution. The room went silent. Even Hartley looked surprised. Furthermore, Anna continued, I'm proposing we rename the Harbor Days Trophy. Instead of the Whitaker Legacy Cup, it'll be the Samuel Hartley Memorial Trophy, in honor of the man who tried to save this festival's soul. Hartley sat down slowly. Emily couldn't see his face, but his shoulders shook slightly. Rebecca Hartley Morrison stood from her seat near the front. I second that proposal, and I'd like to add that my family will match Anna's donation, dollar for dollar. $400,000 total for Ravenwood Cove's future. The applause was deafening. When it finally quieted, Mayor Whitaker herself stood. She looked diminished without her usual power suits and perfect makeup. Wearing a simple dress, her hair unstyled, her eyes red from crying. I need to say something. Her voice was soft, but carried in the silent room. I've spent my entire political career defending my father's legacy. I told myself he was a visionary, that his methods were necessary to save Ravenwood Cove from economic decline. But the truth is simpler and uglier. He was a thief, and I enabled that theft. She paused, gathering strength. I knew about the shell companies. I knew about the land fraud. I told myself it was ancient history, that dragging it up would only hurt the town. But I was really protecting myself, my reputation, my political career. I put my family's legacy above justice. Emily watched as people shifted uncomfortably. This kind of raw honesty was rare in politics. Martha Higgins spent 50 years carrying Samuel Hartley's secret, afraid to speak up. Douglas Hartley spent his life watching his family's legacy be erased, and my own daughter had to expose me on social media to force the truth out. Whitaker's voice broke. I am deeply, profoundly sorry. Not just for my actions, but for my cowardice. She sat down to stunned silence. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. Emily looked over to see Martha Higgins on her feet, applauding. Others joined her, first one by one, then in a wave. It wasn't forgiveness, exactly. but it was acknowledgement. After the meeting, Emily found herself at the Seafarer diner with the usual suspects: Tom, Ben, Lucy, Sophia, and, surprisingly, both Douglas Hartley and Rebecca Hartley Morrison. To justice. Tom raised his coffee cup. Even when it takes 50 years. To family, Rebecca added, clinking her cup against Douglas's. Even when we're stubborn about it. Douglas smiled. The first genuine smile Emily had seen from him. To grandfathers who taught us to fight for what's right. I'll drink to that, Lucy said, refilling everyone's cups. Though personally, I'm just glad nobody blew up my diner. The festival weekend isn't over yet, Ramirez deadpanned, earning laughs. Sophia leaned toward Emily. You did good work on this one. Complicated work. Complicated doesn't begin to cover it. Emily thought about the layers of deception, the decades of secrets, the way past and present had tangled together. I keep wondering what would have happened if Martha hadn't decided to act. Would we ever have known? You would have figured it out eventually, Ben said. You're good at seeing things others miss. Or I'm just paranoid from my Boston days. Productive paranoia, Tom corrected. There's a difference. They talked late into the evening, the diner's neon sign glowing against the darkening sky. Emily felt something settle in her chest. Not peace exactly, but contentment. These were her people now. This was her place. Her phone buzzed. An email from the Boston Police Department. Subject: position offer. Emily's hand trembled slightly as she opened it. They were offering her a job: detective, major crimes unit, significant pay increase, everything she'd wanted before her burnout. You okay? Ben asked quietly. Yeah. Emily deleted the email without responding. Just ghosts. Bad ones? No, just not relevant anymore. She looked around the diner, at Tom's gruff kindness, Lucy's warm laugh, Sophia's gentle wisdom, Ben's curious intelligence. At the Hartleys, rebuilding their family connection after decades of estrangement. This was where she belonged. Not because it was easy, but because it mattered. The next morning, Emily stood at the old mill ruins where her first Ravenwood Cove case had begun. The place had been declared a historic site, with plans to convert it into a memorial museum. Symbolic, she thought. Taking something broken and making it beautiful again. Watson snuffled around the ruins, tail wagging, completely unconcerned with metaphors. Thought I'd find you here. Emily turned to see Sheriff Tom approaching, carrying 2 coffees. You're becoming predictable, Tom. I prefer reliable. He handed her a cup. I wanted to talk to you about something. The state police are impressed with your work on the Blackwood case. They're offering you a liaison position. You'd split time between Ravenwood Cove and regional investigations. I'm happy where I am. I know. But Emily, you're too talented for a department this small. I could go back to Boston, Emily interrupted. They offered me a job this morning. I said no. Tom's eyebrows rose. Why? Because size doesn't matter. What matters is doing work that means something. Here, every case is personal. Every victim has a face, a family, a story. In Boston, it was just statistics. Numbers on a board. You're sure? Completely. Emily looked at the ruins, thinking about Samuel Hartley, about Caroline Whittaker, about all the ways people could break and heal. Besides, something tells me Ravenwood Cove isn't done with mysteries. Someone needs to stick around. Tom smiled. In that case, I have another proposition. I'm cutting back my hours, doctor's orders. The department needs a lead detective. Someone smart, dedicated, who knows this town inside and out. Emily's heart jumped. Tom, think about it. No pressure. But Emily, you've earned this. And this town needs you. As Tom left, Emily stood alone in the ruins, Watson pressed against her legs. Lead detective. It meant responsibility, pressure, long hours. It meant being the person people called when everything went wrong. It meant exactly what she'd been looking for when she fled Boston. Purpose. What do you think, Watson? The beagle wagged his tail enthusiastically. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Emily pulled out her phone and texted Tom. I'm in. Let's make it official. His response was immediate. Welcome to the job, Detective Wilson. Try not to solve every cold case in the first month. Emily laughed, the sound echoing off the old mill walls. Then she walked back toward town, ready for whatever came next. Behind her, the ruins stood silent in the morning sun, a reminder that even the most broken places could become something new. Chapter 8. Harbor Days Redux. 3 weeks later, Emily stood on the rebuilt festival stage, watching Ravenwood Cove celebrate Harbor Days the way it was meant to be celebrated, with community, not corporate sponsors. Anna Whitaker had won the mayoral election by a landslide. Her first official act was disbanding the old festival committee and appointing a new one. Douglas Hartley as chair, Rebecca Hartley Morrison as treasurer, Lucy Brown as community outreach coordinator, and, to everyone's surprise, Martha Higgins as historical consultant. Redemption Arc, Lucy had called it. The festival was smaller this year. No TV crews, no imported seafood, no inflated vendor fees. Just local businesses, fishing boat races, and Lucy's legendary blueberry pie contest. Detective Wilson? A voice called from the crowd. Emily turned to see a young woman in her 20s, carrying a reporter's notebook. I'm Jenny Kwan, Portland Tribune. Can I ask you a few questions about the Blackwood case? Make it quick, I'm off duty. How does it feel to expose one of New England's biggest corruption scandals? Emily thought about it. Relieving, exhausting, and honestly, a little scary. Scary? Because for every secret we expose, there are probably 10 more hidden. Ravenwood Cove has a long history. Who knows what else is buried? Jenny's eyes lit up. Are you saying there might be more investigations? I'm saying history has a way of catching up. But that's off the record. After Jenny left, Ben appeared with lemonade. Causing trouble with the press? Always. Emily accepted the drink gratefully. How's the Gazette's anniversary edition coming? Released this morning, sold out in 2 hours. My piece on Samuel Hartley is being syndicated across Maine. Ben looked embarrassed but pleased. I might have won a regional journalism award. Ben, that's amazing. It's your story too. You solved it. We solved it. Together. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the festival. Pete Larkin's bait shop had a booth. Susan Chen's pottery was selling briskly. Marcus Webb's Sea Dancer, repaired and repainted, was giving harbor tours. I've been thinking, Ben said, about that true crime blog I run. What if I made it official? Focus on Ravenwood Cove's history, unsolved mysteries, that kind of thing. You mean the blog you think is anonymous, but everyone in town knows is yours? Ben's ears turned red. It's not that obvious. Ben, you literally titled it, The Matthews Mystery Files. Fair point. He laughed. But seriously, there's so much history here. Stories that deserve to be told. Then tell them. Just maybe run them past the police department first. Some mysteries are better left cold. Says the detective who reopened a 50-year-old case. That's different. That one wanted to be solved. Emily's phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Beach, North Cove. Possible body. Sorry to interrupt your day off. Emily sighed. Duty calls. Want company? Always. They made their way through the festival crowd, Watson trotting between them. Emily spotted Sophia manning the first aid booth, Tom sampling pie at Lucy's stand, Ramirez chatting with some college kids about police work. This was her town now. These were her people. Whatever mystery waited at the North Cove, she'd solve it. And whatever came after that, she'd handle it too. Because that's what you did when you found your place in the world. You protected it. Epilogue, 6 months later. The Ravenwood Gazette's front page showed a photo of Emily and Ben standing beside the newly dedicated Samuel Hartley Memorial Trophy, both smiling as Anna Whitaker presented it at the revived Harbor Days Festival. But Emily wasn't reading about the past. She was focused on the present, specifically the file on her desk labeled The Lighthouse Letters. Someone had found a collection of love letters hidden in the old lighthouse, dating back to the 1940s. At first, it seemed like a romantic historical curiosity. Then Ben discovered the letters were in code. And when they'd started deciphering them, they'd found something unexpected. References to a smuggling operation during World War II. Please tell me this is just some romantic sailor's bad poetry, Tom said, dropping into the chair across from her. I wish. Emily showed him the decoded passage. Look, coordinates, dates, cargo manifests. Someone was running illegal goods through Ravenwood Cove during the war. 70 years ago. Who cares? Someone does. The lighthouse caretaker reported a break-in last week. Nothing stolen except these letters, which I'd photographed and returned to the display case. Someone's looking for the originals. Tom groaned. Please tell me we're not about to uncover another multi-generational conspiracy. Would you like the comforting lie or the likely truth? I hate this town sometimes. But he was smiling. They both were. Because as complicated and secretive and occasionally murderous as Ravenwood Cove could be, it was home. And these mysteries, these threads connecting past to present, they made it real. Emily pulled out a fresh notebook, Watson settling at her feet, and started making notes. Another case, another secret, another chance to bring truth to light. Just another day in Ravenwood Cove. The end. Author's note. This is Book 2 of the Ravenwood Cove Mysteries. Emily Wilson will return in Book 3. Shadows at Blackwood Estate, where a gala at the infamous Blackwood Mansion turns deadly, and old grudges resurface in unexpected ways. Thank you for stepping inside Mystery Manor. If you enjoyed this story, let me know by leaving a comment or like. It truly helps support the channel. More mysteries from Ravenwood Cove are coming, and the next case is already waiting. Subscribe so you don't miss what's uncovered next. Step inside. The mystery awaits.